Hello, beautiful people. I know this is a bit of a controversial topic, but I feel like it needs to be addressed. Over the years, playing several different MMOs, I've seen a lot of conversations in general chats, Discord servers, on Reddit, and game chat, and even in Twitch streams about endgame PVE and gatekeeping. And normally, the conversations are started by someone who's complaining about it. And of course, there's an infinite amount of gripes that people have with it. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, I've got a bow and a musket. Why won't anyone let me in their group? Sorry, I had to after my last video. I mean, sometimes people will straight up even be like, I'm not showing you anything that I have, just invite me to the group and stop gatekeeping. I have such and such gear score or this level gear and no one's inviting me. Or my personal favorite, toxic elitists won't let anyone play and learn the game. And that's why I want to talk about it. I've just seen so much arguing and I think it would help if they actually understood what gatekeeping is, when gatekeeping is toxic, when it isn't, and why in endgame PVE it's so important to work as a team and have a team-oriented mentality. And like I said, this isn't just a New World topic. I just happen to be playing a lot of New World right now. So just sit back, relax, and let's have a little chat about gatekeeping. I think it's appropriate to start this conversation with talking about what gatekeeping actually is. If you want to get real generic, according to the dictionary, gatekeeping is defined as the activity of trying to control who gets particular resources, power, or opportunities, and who does not. The two main forms of gatekeeping that we see in gaming are either saying you won't play with someone outright for any random reason, or that you need to vet someone before playing with them. One of these is extremely disgustingly toxic in endgame PvE, and one is not. I mean, it just makes sense, right? Just outright saying, no, you can't come for no specific reason, or to obviously discriminate is extremely toxic. Unless there's some sort of conflict between the people involved, no one should be excluded just because. On the other hand, and this is where it gets a little spicy, vetting players before inviting them to endgame content is not toxic and is not done to exclude. But of course, if you don't get invited, you might feel excluded. So let me repeat that. Players don't ask you to show your gear so they can keep you from participating in content. That's certainly one way to look at it, and as we know, there's always multiple ways that people can view the same thing. But they don't ask you so that they can keep you out. So why are they asking? Well, now that's where the team-oriented mentality comes to play. New World is great for many reasons, one of which is because it allows players to experience an MMO, or action RPG if you're going with the rebranding, but still maintains a highly enjoyable solo gameplay aspect. And over time, Amazon Gaming has only made it easier for solo players or new players looking for friends to find groups through crossover queues and different game modes. New World also allows players to play around with builds in a way that many other games don't. And that's amazing because it helps keep the game feeling fresh and interesting. I know we're supposed to be talking about gatekeeping. Don't worry, I'm getting there. So playing around with different builds is great and all, but as with most things in life, there's a time and a place for everything. And sometimes it's important to take the wants and needs of others into consideration. Lone Ranger, experimental, or purely for fun builds are great for solo play where your personal performance and enjoyment is the only important factor. Let's say we're an OPR. Yes, of course, you want your team to win, but you ultimately usually only really care about how you do. Or at least you should. If you really truly care about the outcome of OPR, log out and seek professional help. I'm just kidding. Kind of. Anyways, when you're playing OPR, you find builds that allow you to perform well as an individual, and that might not necessarily be the best for the team. And if you think I'm crazy, just take a second and think about how many OPRs you queue into that your team loses because you've got 15 range players standing outside of the fort shooting in, and only a few bruisers and healers. If you don't play the objective, in this case big stepping on point, you're not gonna win. These people are just playing for their own enjoyment, and I mean that's okay. It can be frustrating, but it's okay. Well, in most PvP modes, it's okay. We are not talking about wars here. If the team does bad as a whole, nothing really bad happens. You can perform well personally and still get rewarded. Sure, the rewards for losing aren't as good, but you still come out gaining something. And on top of that, OPRs, arenas, and influence races last a set amount of time, so no time is lost because the team is under-geared or underperforming. In high-end PvE, the team dynamic and composition is arguably as important as doing mechanics right. If the team isn't geared properly, there are consequences. Worst case being the group could fail and never complete the activity, making everyone lose time and enjoyment. But mostly time, like a lot of time. And now I'm gonna finally circle back to the topic and bring it all together. You are not being asked to link your gear so that you can be excluded. You're being asked to link your gear so that the people organizing the group activity can ensure that everyone has a good time and that whatever they're doing can be done within a reasonable amount of time. And no, of course, gear checks do not guarantee a smooth run. You can have an ideal team gear-wise and still spend hours in a Gorgon raid because people play with their mouths on the keyboard. I'm just kidding again, guys. Kind of. While gear checks aren't going to automatically give you a flawless run, they are going to ensure that you have the best chance at a good run. As much as you don't have fun getting murdered over and over again in OPR, an endgame PVEer doesn't enjoy wiping over and over again in a raid or expedition. So, to avoid this, just like in PvP, you need to have a good build for the activity that you're trying to do. Now, unlike in PvP, in PvE, the meta builds are a little more rigid. And that's a cause for friction between players who want to only play with builds that they created and find fun, and players who want the best known builds for a specific activity. You know, that good busy. In PvE, the team needs certain roles to be filled in order to have as smooth of a run as possible. And this is where the individual desires need to be set aside for the team needs. If you don't enjoy working together as a well-oiled machine, then endgame PvE might not be for you. But unfortunately, Amazon Gaming says that's not okay. We need to do everything. Right now, specifically, a lot of the frustration comes from people who want to upgrade to 725 gear score that's locked behind PvE content, specifically the Gorgon Raid and Sandworm Elite Trial, and I can totally understand how frustrating it is to want to do something and feel like you can't because no one will invite you to the raid group. An example that I can give you from my own experience is the Worm Raid. I still haven't done this, and of course I'd love to, but it requires things that I'm not willing to do right now to get geared up for it. I mean, it's laziness, really. I just don't feel like making a worm set right now. But I'm not complaining because I understand that me wanting to do something is not more important than everyone else being able to get through the raid without headaches. That's the team mindset that you need when you're approaching PvE. Is what you're doing best for the team? If the answer is no, then you either need to try and get there or do something else. High-end endgame PvE is not fun or can even be impossible when done casually, and that's the main reason why players gatekeep. They're just trying to have fun. If you're having problems getting into a raid group where people are checking gear, then it's time to upgrade your gear. And that doesn't mean gear score. Yes, of course, you're going to want to have a certain gear score to complete endgame content. No one wants a 400 gear score tank trying to hold it down. But once your gear score is over 600, perks start to become way more important than gear score. So, what perks are they looking for, and how can they tell that you're prepared for endgame content? On your armor, they'll be looking for lots of enchanted ward, max refreshing stacks, and health or weapon perks depending on your build. Enchanted Ward is so important I can't even begin to describe how important it is. If you don't have any, it's time to find some. Refreshing is just too good not to have for any build you could possibly think of. Gear checkers are also going to be looking at your gems. If you've got no gems or random gems on and you're trying to do the Gorgon Raid, it's likely you won't get the invite if there's no Onyx, Jasper, or Ambers on your gear, because everything hits like a truck and you need protection. Always use protection, boys and girls. So, I get it. It's a game, and sometimes you just want to play how you want to play, and that's that. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying you can't expect everyone else to go along with it. As much as you have a right to play how you want, everyone else does as well. If you don't want to change your build to get an invite and you still want to experience the content, then you're gonna have to start your own group. And that's the great thing about activities. Anyone can start them. And chances are people who have completed the content already will want to join. They might not be the best, but you don't need the best to get through. I mean, that's how everyone starts. They don't know what to do, make a group, and learn the content. And it can be fun to experience content that way, but definitely not fun to do every single time you go. And so people check to see what you have. Yep, gatekeeping can be frustrating, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, and I hope that you can see that now. Ultimately, everyone plays the game in a different way, and a playstyle that is enjoyable to one person is going to be completely unbearable to another. And that's fine. But spamming recruitment chat calling gear checkers toxic elitists isn't the solution. Yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I'm a little scared of what the comments section is going to turn into, but that's okay. Hopefully this helped at least one person better understand why people check gear and what you can do to get on teams easier. If you made it this far, let me know by saying free holes in the comments. I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you're having a great day. Like, comment, share, but most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next time, friends!